Well, back down here this morning, Donnie is coming to get the stacker there, and I've got to finish cleaning up the crusher here and get it moved. I'll probably pull it down there. There's a power line that goes across, and I think once it's on a truck, it will no longer fit under said power line. So came back here and worked for 2 days. I didn't know how much I was going to actually be able to do back here. Originally, the plan was to start up front and get all that pile done, which gave its battles, as you saw, and then try to come back here and do whatever I could do. I was hoping I was going to be able to do more than I actually was able to back here. They spent some time moving all this concrete back over here, and I don't know what it was, but when it was all scattered out and everything, I guess all this stuff with the rebar in it was down at the bottom, and then they, put the walls and the floor on top of it. Well, you couldn't see, looking at it, all the rebar, and I'm just not set up to handle that mess right there. So somebody's going to have to come in here with a pulverizer and munch all this stuff up and get all this rebar out, because anybody that knows much about crushing, and which I know a fair amount about now, I knew some going into it, done it a little bit, and I knew that it wouldn't take stuff like this right from the bat, but I was just not expecting there to be this much. I think I had 5 truckloads of stuff out of that whole entire pile up front. So I ended up crushing almost 6,000 tons between the front and that little bit right there. So I ended up with like 5 truckloads up front that I couldn't deal with, and majority of the back. It's just, I don't know why there's so much more rebar in these buildings back here versus the stuff up front. But somebody that's set up in the crushing bed is come through here, munch all that out, but you just got to pull every single piece of rebar that's long like that out, because what happens is it goes through the crusher, and I'll just kind of do a quick little showdown here. We separated that out, and that doesn't look terrible, but between the dirt that's mixed in with it, trash, a 4x4 post will just completely stop this thing. So you got post right here, so that looks like concrete where you throw it in there, and then the wood gets jammed up in there and locks a belt up. But you start digging through it, and you got all this right here, and just rebar galore. And unfortunately, it just jams that up. So all this has to be processed and everything. I think, I'm not saying that I wouldn't do this again, but it would definitely be under different circumstances, as in like once the building's tore down, come in there, take up the concrete, process it right there, get all the rebar out of it, munch it up to the correct size. All this is like perfect size stuff right here. I mean, all that right there isn't too bad. There's some big chunks right there. And then it all comes to one area that is not, see, this was another battle that I was fighting, is see how uneven the ground is right here? Well, all this concrete was dumped right here. So you're scratching right there, you're getting in the dirt, and all of a sudden then you got a 2-foot deep hole right here you're trying to dig out of, and it's just aggravating. So if it's ever done again, it just needs to be, all processed up, all the rebar pulled out of it on the spot, loaded into a truck once it's cleaned up, and brought to one central area where it's, completely processed, rebar's out of it, and it's ready to go into the crusher. Because this whole sitting here trying to pick rebar out and clean all that out while putting it in the crusher is just not very efficient at all. So learned a lot, and it was fun. Definitely had moments of not fun, but once we got this thing going, set up, it would definitely eat the material here. But I mean, even picking through all that, you see the amount of rebar that comes out of it. And I mean, like I said, it'll eat stuff. That's about the longest you need to put through there. But what happens if, say that's a foot longer, that gets into that belt right there, and it gets all jammed up like that, and then the next piece gets jammed up, and then it builds up dirt, and then that just runs out of steam and it just all packs up. And that stuff up front that was so wet, it ends up getting in there and clogging up the screens and everything in there, so the dirt doesn't come out. You got to get in there and shovel all that out. So there's definitely a lot of you know, scenarios that could be a little bit different for all this to set up. And just, you know, regardless with demolition, you're gonna have trash and everything. But yeah, just getting up there and picking all that out, it's a process. But we ended up with about 6,000 tons of crushed concrete, and that will be able to be used on the upcoming road projects and other projects that the customer has to do. There's a few more ponds around here that I think he wants me to do some work to. There's one back there in the back I'm probably going to meet him tomorrow and look at, go down there and start doing some cleanup. But this stuff back here, I mean, it turned out really nice. Good product here. Got some good rock in it, and back here there really wasn't a whole lot of wood, so it's actually a really nice clean material. I don't really see much trash at all. I mean, you got like one little piece of wood here and there, and then you'll get a couple of these were those stainless steel, I don't know what they were, but that's actually the first one I've ever found in the pile, only because the other tab broke off. But yeah, aluminum, wood, and stainless steel. The magnet doesn't pick out, or copper, but it did a good job getting all the rebar out, so that you know, was small enough to go through there. All right, I'm going to take the stacker. Enough yakking here this morning. I just wanted to kind of explain everything a little bit, but got a lot of material here. I'm gonna take the stacker, walk it down there, so it's easier for Donnie to load up. And then while I'm here, I'm gonna take the 330 and just kind of clean all that up and get that kind of put into a pile a little bit better. And yeah, get this equipment cleaned up. I don't know when they're coming for that, but hopefully soon. Well, Donnie's here to get the stacker, so let's get that loaded up. May see if he remembers how to start it up and drive it.
You might all show me how to crank this thing.
You remember how to run this thing again? All right, just leave. You gotta leave the key on. Then you get to think about life for about 30 seconds.
I go get the hammer and knock it out.
Is that long enough to recap your life? Or is that your?
It's supposed to come over and count backwards.
No, we haven't got that far yet.
Oh, okay.
It's got that computer in it, so it takes it a minute to see. It's booting up.
Okay. I can't read.
Kind of like when you put your boots on every morning.
Yeah.
It takes a minute.
Yeah.
And then you got to hold the key for 10 seconds.
Back.
See the countdown?
Yeah. I need to know how to unload it, because look, that nobody does.
Oh, okay. So it starts up. So we'll put these in the center to start, but to move it, they got to be up. And then you got to click this over to the check mark. Then you got to wait another 10 seconds. And then it'll drive. After it quits doing it'll count down there, and then that'll flash steady. And then these two right here. And that's the throttle. You want me to drive it, or you want to drive it?
Drive it.
Okay.
I can drive it off.
I got experience. I got experience now. So we got the stacker loaded up and out of here. And now I'm taking the 330 here and just casting this stuff. There was that outside road that I couldn't reach, and it's ended up where all the metal and rebar went. So I'm taking it and just casting it back over to just kind of clean this up a little bit. Spend a few minutes on my behalf here just to kind of clean this up so that everything is just kind of concentrated for whenever somebody comes with the right stuff to handle this this mess. But like I said, I don't regret anything. I'm happy that I was able to get that whole entire front up there. I just wish it wasn't so muddy, but that's just gonna have to dry out. That can be cleaned up a little bit better. I will do a little fly over there and show you kind of everything in the piles once I get up there. I got a little more trash to clean up there. I'm gonna run up there with the 220 after I get this piled up and pull those mats out, get those stacked up out of the way, and pretty much just get it where either he can run his dozer over it or I can come through here with the dozer and blade everything off and let it dry and probably run the root brake through it. And ought to get all the missed pieces of concrete cleaned up. 330 does a good job with its big wide bucket just breaking this stuff up. Crusher and get it pulled up there on the path and shoveled off, and I'm gonna walk it down there to where those grain bins are and get it turned around so that whenever they come with a truck they can back down here and load it up, because that is a very long walk back up there walking that thing. It'll go a lot faster on wheels. Pulling this little edge right here back into the big pile just makes stuff look so much better. Get everything kind of organized. Alright, let me lay this over a couple more times and that will be good enough. Alright, so back down here, I'll do a video before I leave today. I'll go back up there and show you all of that. I gotta walk the crusher out here to the road and shovel the tracks and everything off on it. And yeah, I went up there and got got that cleaned up a little bit, got all the mats stacked up out of the way, and uses those for about 10 minutes, just kind of blade everything off, and hopefully that'll dry out some up there. I just don't understand why it stays so doggone wet up there. And hopefully that'll kind of dry off a little bit, and be able to maybe later on rake through there with the dozer and the root rake and just kind of get up some more of those chunks of concrete. Same with down here. This just needs to be bladed over, let this wind dry it out, probably come in here with the root rake, and I think it'll get majority of those pieces out. So I'm gonna go ahead and start this up. I need to pull it over here and fill it up with fuel, and like I say, finish cleaning off any of the trash on it. That way it is ready. It's going to go down to Charlie's pit down there, and he's got a fair amount of concrete to crush down there, so he's going to use it for the next couple of weeks or so down there. And that's going to be a wrap. I got the crusher tracked up here. The low boy should be able to back right down here and load it up. That goes to the front of the trailer, and the conveyor goes to the back. Just spent the last 30 minutes running around here with the track shovel, cleaning all the dirt, and the leaf blower blowing everything off. So I'm gonna ride up here to the front and kind of show you everything we've done, but ended up about 1,000 tons back here and almost 5,000 up there in the front. So almost 6,000 tons all together. So definitely made headway on getting a lot of road-based material for future projects for him. And there are the mountains I made in flat country. So I'd get you a view from the sky, but it's a little windy today, so gonna have to wait on that. But ended up being able to go well on mats farther back. Originally the plan was to have to bring all that up, but that was just gonna take more time and money to bring all that material up, and luckily it's dried off a little bit. I just kept walking the crusher and the stacker back to back here in the back. So as you can tell, it's drying off some. It's just when it is wet, it is the gooeyest, stickiest mud. So got a little bit of concrete left out there, not a whole lot. It needs to dry off and run through there with the dozer and probably the rake, and try to get up whatever can be gotten up out of there. As you can tell, there's still standing water all out here, so that's just a muddy, wet mess. Ended up piling all the rebar over there into that pile. Got some concrete there and there, but it just needs to dry out. And got some trash piles right here. Get all that stuff cleaned up. I'll figure out what, or ask him what he wants the finished product to be up here. But pretty much all the concrete that was relatively easy to get out and not packed full of mud. This is night and day difference, just pushing that off a little bit and getting it to spread out. But you just can't rake through that right there. It looks nice and dry, but as soon as you, obviously don't look nice and dry there, as soon as you break down there, it is just pure gooey mud. So like I said, just have to spread all this out, get these puddles of water out of here and get all this where it'll drain, then just kind of come in here and just rake it, get this mess cleaned up and all that. So there it is. That's the biggest pile right there at the end. It's probably at least 30 feet high, I would say. There's a lot of stone right there, but it all, I'm happy with it. Ended up with a very nice product here. Should be a very nice road-based material. Got a lot of fines and rock in it, so it should pack really well. You can tell just from the rain how that's already started to set back up from concrete. See how it's breaking off? So get some moisture in that, spread it out, roll it in. Should definitely build some good roads out of that. So big piles pretty much turned a big mess into a very nice usable product. So I'm happy with it. All right, so on the way home here, I want to swing by here. We've had a few rains and check out the big pond I did right here. We're looking at about 6 to 7 inches from being full. So that's really going to go up on that bank a lot more and really hide that. Obviously there's going to be a little bit right there where the hillside is, but yeah, pond's looking good. We got a little bit of springtime algae that should die off as the summer heat gets here. If not, there is a little, it's kind of all yellow from the pollen right now, But I think there is a little chemical you can put in there that'll take care of that stuff. But yeah, I see a lot of ponds this time of year where that stuff does grow, but normally it does go away. But yeah, looking good. Grass came up good on the pond dam all around here. Everything looks really good. Got one little erosion spot up there have to take care of, but yeah, looking good, looking good. Beach is held together real good by putting that little diversion ditch around it. It's turning nice, looking good.